name is Amit Prakash. I'm a faculty member here at IIIT, and I'm also part of the Center for IT and Public Policy, uh, which Vidisha and some of the others are also associated with. So good to see all of you around, and good to. I joined a bit late, but it was good to listen to the discussions going on in the first session. I'll try not to use the word ethics in my presentation. It, I don't know if I will be, but I'll try not to use it. Uh, and still see if it makes sense uh, to talk about what I'm talking in a winter school on technology and ethics, right? Okay. I understand all of you would. How many of you equate equality with equity? You feel equality and equity, they are the same. You don't feel they're the same. You feel equality and equity, they are same. Okay. So these are some of the terms we'll use. We'll use equality. We'll use equity. Inclusion better with equity than discrimination. So equality is not equity. So what is equity? Okay, so equity is probably not equality as, but I'll give you time, like I'll give you an opportunity to refute that claim. Equity probably has more to do with some of the terms being used in the last sessions: justice, fairness, right? Equality is is easier to measure. Yeah, you can say I'm equal in terms of my weight, my height, my wealth, right? My access to certain kind of resources, my land holding, right? So that would be equality. Uh, Equity will also involve some of these terms that were being discussed in the morning session, which includes justice, fairness. How did that resource come to be? Was it procedurally fair? Did it involve principles of justice as understood by that particular society, etc.? Right. So, with that understanding of equity, would you relate inclusion to equity, or would you relate discrimination to equity? Do you see a natural affinity of one of these terms to equity, or it will depend on the context? Do you feel being inclusive is naturally affiliated or naturally can lead to being more equitable, or do you feel being discriminatory can lead to being more equitable? Okay, I'll just write down the terms and then we'll see. So we are talking about equity, equality, we're talking about inclusion, and we are talking about discrimination. Right? So what I want, one is I'm not taking the position that they are equal, they are same. Right? I'm not taking that position. This I associate with these kinds of terms. So these are some of the assumptions that I'll be making, right? And the second is I'll also engage with these kinds of terms. I just want to understand, to start with, how would you feel equity relates to these two terms? If I want to be in an equitable society, should I look only for inclusion, or should I also be discriminatory in my approach? Discriminatory? Yeah. All of you are fine with this? That if you are looking for equity, we need to discriminate. Yes, no? Who says no? Someone said no. It's okay. So I want people on to take yes, no, all kinds of positions. Some of you said yes. You said yes. Yeah. What's your name? Shiva. Anyone else said yes? You also. What's your name? Deborah. Yeah. Sorry. Deborah. Yeah. You also said yes. Who all said no? No one said no. So 3 of them said yes. All the others said what? You say something. Yes, no, maybe, something. No? Okay. So we'll see what. Yeah. So what I'll focus on is try to look at these kinds of terms and see if it comes through the case that we are trying to present today. Yeah. And then we'll come to these kinds of questions, whether we always need, or whether inclusion, yeah, of a particular kind goes along with discrimination of a particular kind. Yeah. Is inclusion not always the opposite of discrimination? Yeah. To achieve inclusion, we may need to discriminate. To be equitable, we may need to discriminate, right? So that's, just keep that on the back of your mind. Those of you who are comfortable, good. Those of you who are not, just live with it for about 40-50 minutes, and then we'll see. We'll come back to this question. Okay, so I have 3 sections. One is I'll just set the context of why this particular talk. Then I'll get into a case study, an empirical work. So on the public distribution system that one of my master's students did in the last semester. And then we'll come to some notions of designing technology. Okay, so I'm sure some of you would have read this: government savings from DBT grow multifold in financial year 2019. All of you are aware of DBT, direct benefit transfer scheme, right? So what happens today is a lot of or there are many individuals who get some form of cash transfer from the state, largely the central government of India. And now most of these cash transfers, or even say subsidies in kind, are being provided directly into the bank account of the beneficiaries, right? It's a direct benefit transfer from Government of India to the bank account of the beneficiaries, right? And this was, I think, it has been talked about for the last 10 odd years, but over the last 4-5 years, this has been made much more operational. Yeah? And it uses, so government says that, or these are claims from the Economic Survey and other documents of the Government of India. I think last year it was, and this one is, I think, half year estimate. It's around 50,000 crores. It's what the government has saved by direct benefit transfer. And what it says is, it also reveals that savings were made possible through the use of information technology, right? Which weeds out duplicate or fake beneficiaries, right? So suppose I'm eligible for a scholarship scheme, right? And I can, so using this direct benefit transfer and information technology in direct benefit transfer, what I can do is I can weed out, those who claim, or I cannot have 2. So I cannot, as Amit Prakash, if I am eligible for a scholarship, I cannot put 2 applications and get 2 scholarships, right? So that's one way of weeding out duplicate, say, beneficiaries. The other is fake, right? Fake means I'm not eligible, right? But I've created a ghost imaginary person in my name or in someone else's name, and I have linked, or I have maybe my bank account or someone's bank account, I have linked to that ghost non-existent beneficiary, right? So one is duplicate, the other is fake. Fake is I'm not eligible, but I am putting that thing in. The third is also ghost, right? Where no one exists, right? So what it says is information technology is being used, and it's largely being used to weed out duplicate, fake, non-existent or inactive beneficiaries. How would information technology do all this? How would you be able to use IT to eliminate some of these, say beneficiaries if there is duplicates, or if there are fakes, if they are non-existent, etc. What is being done? Aadhaar, yeah. So what is Aadhaar doing? So there is a unique ID that's being assigned to an individual, and that unique ID is linked to this person's biometrics. Yeah, so it will be fingerprints or iris. So one is, because it is unique, you cannot have two IDs of the same type, and then you cannot have ghost IDs, because when you die, you cannot give your biometrics. Yeah, therefore, persons who don't exist, yeah, you cannot make unique IDs for those persons. So you can remove non-existent people, you can remove duplicate people. Fake is a concern, but duplicate and non-existent people can be removed if you have a database of all the persons in the country with unique IDs and IDs linked to the state of being alive, right? Which is captured through biometrics. Okay. So what we will be interested in is one part of this DBT, and that is distribution of food grains, right? Distribution of food grains under the public distribution system, and there also similar claims of duplicate, fake, non-existent ration cards. This is a bit of a stretch. We'll see why this cannot be done. Duplicate and non-existent, yes. Fake can be because of various reasons. Fake can be because I am, say in this case, I'm not a poor household, but I claim to be a poor household. Aadhaar does not do anything to that. So Aadhaar does not do that. You can still identify fakes if you have a better way of identifying who is poor and who is not, right? So there are claims being made that there's a lot of savings that the government is incurring on account of benefit transfers to citizens, and most of these savings are because information technology is being used, and the information technology that's being used is largely, or the central element of that information technology is this unique identity, which is linked to the state of being alive, right? And so this is what that scheme actually is. So if you look at this, so linking of Aadhaar with PDS, this is actually a question in Rajya Sabha, and this is answer to that question, whether then Minister of State for Food and Civil Supplies, and what he had to say was Aadhaar as identity document for delivery of services that simplifies all this, brings in transparency, efficiency, enables beneficiaries, all that stuff. But more important is this. So this is what the scheme is. Okay, end-to-end. I think this would be better. So it's end-to-end computerization of targeted public distribution scheme operations, right? So this is what the scheme is. The component 1 of the scheme comprises digitization of ration cards and beneficiaries and other databases, online allocation, computerization of supply chain management, setting up of transparency portal, and grievance redressal mechanisms, right? And the central government has asked states to opt for any of the two modes of DBT with respect to public distribution system. One is cash transfer of food subsidy into the bank account of beneficiaries, right? Or the second one is fair price shop automation, right? So automation at the FPS level, which involves installation of point of sale device at fair price shops for authentication of beneficiaries and electronic capturing of transactions, right? So that is what this particular program is trying to do. So what it is doing is, using information technology in the public distribution system, and states which have not opted for cash transfer. In fact, none of the states have opted for cash transfer. It's only 2 or 3 union territories where cash transfer is happening. The states have been asked to engage in automation of the fair price shops. Are you aware? How many of you are aware of the public distribution system and what it? Who is not aware of public distribution system? Many of you. Okay. So public distribution in India is was started about 30-40 years back, and it was started when there was a need felt for providing subsidized food grains to certain households who could not afford food grains in the open market, right? So there are households in the country who don't possess the required, or who are not earning enough, which allows them to buy enough food grains from the open market, yeah. And these households, in the absence of a subsidized publicly provided food grain mechanism, would otherwise go hungry, yeah. So there are a lot of households in the country who fall under that category, and therefore the state felt that it was morally bound. Now it's a right. Earlier it was not a right, now it's become a right. The state had this duty towards its citizens to provide food so that they don't die of hunger, right? So this scheme has been in operations in different forms in the states, in different states for about 30-40 years now. And what happens in this scheme is you have fair price shops or ration shops, as you would call them, in locations, in various locations, catering to about 500 to 1,000 households. And these fair price shops, they obtain their ration, which is largely food grains, rice or wheat in most cases, depending on which area you are in, right? And this is subsidized by the government. So the government sells it at a much lower price than what would be available in the market. So the market price for rice is say 30 rupees per kilogram. That rice in these shops one could get at about 2 rupees, 3 rupees, 1 rupee, free of cost, all that. Yeah, so it's a subsidized program, and these fair price shops, these are licensed. So depending on which state you are in, the state government would license certain private parties or cooperative societies to run this fair price shop. The food grains in these shops comes from the elaborate public procurement mechanism, which consists of the Food Corporation of India at the central level and the state level food corporation. And that's what the public distribution system is. It's a subsidized provision of food grain to, now it's targeted, earlier it was not, to below poverty line households, right? So, and below poverty line, there is a definition for which kinds of households would qualify to be in the below poverty line category. So if an household is found to be in the below poverty line category, this, and depending on how many members are there in this household, they can go to a fair price shop and get subsidized food grain, right? So what this component one is doing is, it's digitization of ration card. So what you need is, you need a ration card, right, which says you are a below poverty line household. Now there's also this concept of extremely below poverty line. These are Antyodaya Anna Yojana. They're classified as AAY households. So either you are a BPL or you are extremely BPL. So the poorest of the poor is what you may call them. So you get a particular type of card, and depending on how many people are there in your house, in that household, you'll get X whatever. So I think it's 6 kgs or 5 kgs of food grain for every member. So if you're a BPL household and if there are 4 members, you'll probably get 20 to 24 kgs of rice. If you're Antyodaya, you'll get a bit more. So that is what. So you have a ration card. So this FPS automation scheme is one is digitization of the ration cards, right? And the second part is, where is that? Yeah, digitization of ration cards and beneficiaries, and then the process of the process of issuing the food grains to the eligible households, that's also to be automated, right? So these two things. Now the fair price, so if you look at the ration card automation or ration card digitization, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to digitize the ration cards? To leakage through? No, what kind of leakage? How would that leakage happen? So, right. So you cannot put anyone else's name in your, so you cannot put names of people who are not eligible to get that ration in your ration card, right? Similarly, if there are members who were there earlier and they want another card to be built, one will have to remove the name from one card to be eligible to put it in. So you cannot have duplicates. So those who are not eligible cannot put their names in. Those who are already there cannot put their names in other cards, right? That means you cannot have duplicates. People who are not there, right? So what was also reported as happening earlier was that people did not exist, but we would include their names also in ration cards to get more, because it's linked to the number of members. So if I have only 3 members in my household, if I included one more name, I would get 5 kgs extra. Okay, so now because it is linked to the state of being alive, because it's biometrics, I cannot include someone's name who does not exist. Okay, so this ration card digitization was, and linking to Aadhaar, is expected to take care of problems arising due to duplication of entries or ghost entries, non-existent persons entries. Okay, how do you think ineligible? So if I am not eligible, if I am a BPL household, you are not a BPL household, but you want to get a ration card, how does presence of a biometrically controlled database ensure that you are not provided the ration? Sorry? Okay. Okay. Are all of your bank accounts being monitored at this point? Okay, so you can still do that. You can link your bank account, and assuming most of our transactions are through the banks, we can find whether this person has this kind of income or not. But of the total workers in the Indian labor force, how many are in the formal labor force? How many are in the formal economy? Any idea? 10%. Not more than 10%. So there is reason to believe those who are not in the formal economy may not be drawing salaries through their bank accounts. Okay, so that may not be the, so even if you're doing that, you're only looking at 10%, not more than that. Yeah, right. But the neighbor would also know that this officer is going to my neighbor, and my neighbor is expected to certify whether I have that or not. So you'll get into some game theoretic position, and PAN, that's only for income tax paying people. How many of, that's not even 10%, right? So see, there can be ways in which technology helps, but Aadhaar does not do anything to this process, right? And therefore, in terms of fake, the claims, I don't subscribe to the claims that information technology today is doing anything to eliminate fake claims. Fake in the sense, in terms of PDS, someone who is APL but colludes with this officer and gets their household classified as a BPL, or, and when you have something like this, yeah, suppose I am a APL, I collude with the officer and get in as a BPL category, right? And then there is a ceiling which says only 30% of the households can be classified as BPL. What will happen when APL households collude to be BPL and there's a ceiling of some X%? So someone who is a BPL goes out, right? So this process of APL households getting BPL cards and BPL households not getting BPL cards is something that Aadhaar is not doing, cannot do much. Yeah, it's a very localized process. Okay, then you have to go talk to that person, maybe talk to the neighbor, talk to a few more people. Yeah, so it's not a centralized process which is ensuring that your identity is a unique number, right? So the Aadhaar, the centralized Aadhaar, what it can do is it can ensure that you are unique, yeah, you exist, yeah, but it cannot say whether you are BPL or you are APL. This BPL APL classification still requires a lot of human contact. Okay, at least in an economy which is largely informal, yeah, where we don't have everyone, where we don't have bank accounts reflecting the correct financial position of every household. Okay, so this is the scheme that we'll be talking about now. So this scheme has been there for some time, like in different variants. This was a response in I think 2017, but this fair price shop automation, Aadhaar linkage to PDS, it is being talked about for about 10 years now. In fact, one of the two reasons why Aadhaar was argued is required for a country like India is PDS. The other was NREGA, right? They've stopped talking about NREGA and PDS now, but that was in the initial period of Aadhaar, the two schemes being talked about, where Aadhaar is going to transform, which Aadhaar was supposed to transform was PDS and NREGA, right? And one of the transformation objectives was to arrest leakages. Okay, and arresting leakages means savings to the government. But one way of measuring leakage prevention is that the government has saved some money. Yeah, that's not the only way to measure leakage prevention. Okay, and in that count, what we saw in the Hindu article seems to corroborate FPS automation or Aadhaar PDS linkage, leading to savings for the central exchequer, right? But we look at the scheme and what is the scheme doing to its supposed or expected beneficiaries in Bangalore urban district. So we are not going to any rural area. We are in the heart of what you would call amongst the best IT infrastructures in the country today. And we'll look at what is happening to this PDS Aadhaar linkage and what is it doing to essentially two types of people. The people who are expected to get the subsidized food grains and the people who are expected to give it to them, the fair price shop owners. We have not talked to most of the other people in the chain. So this is, as I said, this is largely based, so the field work was carried out by Apurva and she was doing it as part of her Digital Society Master's dissertation, and it was done roughly over a 6-7 month period between November 2018 and April 2019, and she covered Bangalore North, Bangalore South, Bangalore East, and Anikal. So about 4 taluks in Bangalore and all these locations. So it was largely, it has a Bangalore South bias. She talked with, so along with a field assistant, she went to all these places and she talked with 139 BPL ration card holders and 6 AAY card holders. Most of them were women, but she also talked to private dealers, the fair price shop owners, and cooperative societies. So the observations are based on this fieldwork. So these are your typical fair price shops. So I don't know if it is clear, but this is what a fair price shop would look like from the outside. Yeah, so this is, so you see some people gathered here and there are some boards here. So this is what a typical fair price shop would look like. This is a board which says this is what the stock position is. This is the price at which people can get their grains. These are some of the locations or households where this was conducted. So this is one, this is another. Yeah, just hold on to this picture and we'll come back to it towards the end. Yeah. So we have two. Yeah. So these are the types of locations where the, so it was interviews were conducted in the households, these kinds or these kinds, yeah, or at the fair price shops which look like this. Yeah. Most of these interviews were conducted in Kannada, but also in Hindi. Yeah. Some of the people were also comfortable with English, very few, in which case it was the preference for Apurva was English, Hindi and Kannada. But most of the interviews were in Kannada, some in Hindi and some in English. Okay. So essentially, we're looking at 3 major categories of say processes that are involved at the fair price shops with respect to the public distribution system, right? One is the entire process of ration card issue. Yeah, so there has to be a the ration cards need to be issued to the eligible beneficiary. So that's the one. That's the first set of processes. The second is at the shop, there's something that happens during the issue of food grains, and then there are certain things that need to happen and can happen after the issue of food grains, right? So we'll go through some of what the respondents have said, right? So again, most of them are women, and women in the late 30s, 40s is what these quotes have been taken from, right? So if you look at the first one, we had applied for ration card during the election time. Food officers and ration dealers had put a camp here and asked everyone to come and enroll. What do you think election time is important here? Or do you think that's... Yes? Is election time just a coincidence, or do you think that's... that could have any bearing? Okay, that's the time when citizens can enjoy their rights. Okay, right? Okay, so there's another interesting angle. The ration cards are, it's not only about rights, right? It's also about elections. You need votes. Okay, votes many times can come by not only because you are doing what you are supposed to do, but you are seen as doing something more than what you are supposed to do, right? So if you are a APL household and if I get you a ration card in exchange for votes, yeah, I am seen as doing something more than what, yeah, ration card being issued to all BPL households is routine. Yeah, I am doing more if I can manage BPL cards for APL households, and because of that favor, I get some votes, right? So ration cards throughout India are a very potent political tool to get votes. Okay, so one is a very blatant form of giving cash and liquor, yeah, but you have these kinds of benefits being exploited by all sorts of political parties and candidates to get votes during elections, right? So this has been, there are people who have studied this and it has been documented. So most of our respondents said that our application happens during that time, or there are camps that are held during that time, and that's where we go and apply. But so there is some relevance of elections to ration cards. You also remove the others, no? You can do both. So what you can do is you can do a camp which says all the ration cards linked to these 5 fair price shops are getting updated, and some BPLs are becoming APL, some APLs are becoming BPL. So what you do is in this process, you ensure people who are going to vote for you are given a BPL card. Those who are not, their BPL cards are cancelled. You can do that, right? So this is a possibility, and it has also been happening, because of which at a particular point in time before this linkage happened, we had, so in Karnataka, for example, the population of Karnataka in 2011 was about 6 crores, 6.5 or 7 crores, right? The number of ration cards in, I think, 2010, 2009 was about 1.8 crores. Right. So if you assume a family size, average family size of about 3.5, 4, that's more than the population, right? So, and that had come to be because of these kinds of, this is what was happening, right? And to ensure that that 1.8 crore came down to some reasonable number, there were these biometric linkages, and now we still have about 60-80 lakh, which may not be, say 60-80 lakh ration cards, but we don't know whether these are all BPL families or not, because Aadhaar does not do anything there. It definitely ensures that these are unique. Yeah, there are no duplicates, that it does. It ensures there are no ghosts, because you cannot go and authenticate yourself. So that it does. But we have seen those kinds of inflated numbers, which have given rise to say this kind of technology being used to weed out a lot of these ration cards, right? But I think what's equally important here is that it took about 1.5 years for the ration card to come to them, right? And even in the second case, if you see, we had applied 3 years ago, received an APL card instead of BPL. My husband went to the food office many times to request that we don't earn that much, and that's why we need a BPL card and not APL. He submitted the application again after submitting an income statement, and then received the BPL card, right? So all that has been reported. When we checked the status online, the application was cancelled for some reason. Then we applied again through an agent. My husband knew someone who worked as an agent. He charged a fee of rupees 2000 and also asked for an income certificate. We got the certificate made and then submitted the application. In 15 days, the new ration card was delivered, right? So it takes anywhere between 15 days to 1.5 years. No visit to this Food and Civil Supplies Office, 2 multiple visits to the Food and Civil Supplies Office, depending on who you know, who you don't know, right? So the social relationships in the local context are still very important for you or for our respondents to procure a ration card, right? So as per the guidelines, as per the process, they are supposed to get it within 15 days or so. And the ration, there has to be an official visit, verification by someone. Someone needs to go to their say houses and see whether they fall in that category or not. And it is to be delivered by post, and only 70 rupees is what needs to be paid. But actually what we saw is there was no verification. None of our respondents said that this was a process that was carried out with the required due diligence. Okay, if you knew an agent, if you were able to give 2000 rupees, you would probably not require someone coming to your house and doing a verification. You would get it within 15 days. Okay, so there were ways in which both ration card holders and say people in that social context were navigating through this or still navigate through this process, and there is no evidence of information technology or Aadhaar playing or making any difference to the way ration cards were being issued or are being issued to PDS under the PDS scheme, right? Let's look at the process that happens during issue of food grains. There are a lot more steps, but we'll look at only these 3-4. So this one, for example, there's a date of, so there's a fair price shop, and if you remember the photograph, there was a board, there was a black board outside the fair price shop, which needs to say when in fact, not when the shop will be open. There's a guideline by the government which says that all the shops have to be open from this time to this time on these days for disbursement for issuing ration, right? Even then, there's a board that's outside the fair price shops, and the ration these dealers are expected to write when the issue will happen, which dates, what time, right? So that is expected to happen. Then once I know that this will be say issued on this date, and when I go there's a process by which I am authenticated. Yes, I have a ration card. I need to have a BPL card, and then my fingerprint is linked to that BPL card. When I go there and I give my biometric impression, if it matches, then I get the ration, right? And then I have a ration card, and there is an entry that needs to be made on that ration card, or I need to be given a slip or some receipt which says you have been given 20 kgs of rice on this day and you have paid 10 rupees for that, right? And this is an expectation from any transaction. Okay, there are other things, but we will not get into that. Let's see what people had to say. We are happy with what they gave. We are getting it for free. That is enough for us. We know we get 5.5 or 6 kgs and not 7 kg per person, but we don't have the energy to fight with them. They can get our card cancelled, right? There is no one in my family. I go alone to get the ration. Fingerprint didn't come. They made me wait. but it still didn't match. And when it's interesting, she says fingerprint didn't come, right? So, and what she is referring to is, so when you go there, there's a point of sale machine. You put your say finger, yeah, the impression is captured. It goes and gets verified in the Aadhaar database, right? So there could be various issues in the entire process. One issue would be your finger is not clean, or the impression that it has made on the device is not what was made earlier, right? And it's not within the tolerance limits that the design has accepted. During transmission there could be some losses, right? So even if your finger is clean, your impressions are intact, the device may not have captured it properly, may not have transmitted it properly. At the matching, at the database level, there might be something going on which did not match it properly, right? Because it's all black box. We don't know how does that matching happen. Yeah, it's a proprietary technology. The algorithm is not revealed, so we don't know whether this problem is because of the finger, because of the device, or because of the data transmission, or the algorithm that is being used in the central database to do this matching, right? That is not made transparent. So when the fingerprint does not come, we don't know why has the fingerprint not come. So most of our respondents whose fingerprints did not come, yeah, in the first instant, did not know why it had not come. And therefore, what they would do is they would do all these different things. They'll go wash their hands, they'll go apply certain things on their finger, they'll rub it on the wall, they'll come on a different day. Some, say, garment factory workers would or they not only that, they'll get their children. Yeah, so the children who would go to school after school, or they'll probably the next day, the children would not go to school, they'll come and give their fingerprint to get the ration. Yeah, so all these different permutations, combinations would happen when the fingerprints would not come. And there were a reasonable number of people for whom the fingerprints would not come at the first go, right? Then the people who have to travel long distances. So we have nothing here, no bus service, no hospital. Even auto rickshaw drivers drop us at the main road and charge ₹100. It takes us more than 2 hours to reach the shop, and sometimes we have to go 2 to 3 times in a month to get the ration because of various reasons, right? So that's from the ration card holder's perspective. Yeah, here is a transformed PDS setup which has employed technology, right? In terms of ration card issue process, we don't see too much of a change when it comes to the beneficiaries. In terms of the issue process, we don't see too much of a positive change when it comes to the beneficiaries, right? So quantity frauds continue to happen. So if they are eligible for 7 kgs, they get 5.5 kgs. They know they are getting less, but they still don't complain. Yeah, they don't have the energy to go and complain to anyone, right? And this is where issues of power and politics start kicking in. And this is where local agency becomes very important. Acknowledging the agency of the local, that the local context through these various, say, dimensions can lead to a particular way of enacting technology. Yeah? So even if the technology is designed with an intention to reduce leakages, because in the local context, the ration dealer is in a position that's higher in the power hierarchy than the ration card holder, he or she is still able to go away with a quantity fraud, yeah, not to mention of the quality fraud, yeah. From the ration card, from the FPS owner's perspective, this is what one of them had to say. This is not our work to do. After the introduction of Aadhaar, we have been doing extra work. And what do we get from it? We spent our money on these devices, this laptop, that printer, the fingerprint machine. Creating new applications, updating address, adding new members takes a lot of time. We work till late to help these people get their ration, right? So this is what, or this is the kind of response that some of the fair price shop owners provided to us, right? That this is leading to extra work of various types. And what happens, for example, in many cases is, even in a place like Bangalore, yeah, where we have no reason to believe that connectivity should be a problem, yeah, we have people not, or there are two locations where the entire process happens. One place where the ration card beneficiaries would queue up to give their biometrics, because that requires a more stable, better connection, and other place where they will go to get their food grains. In the process, what is happening is the application is so designed, and again I would feel that this is because the design process is not appropriate. We'll come to it later. It's so designed that when you give your biometric, the biometric is in a sense an acknowledgement that you have received the food grains, right? There is no way in which the biometric is again demanded for you to say that the first one is to say I am eligible, and the second one is to say I have received what I was entitled for. So the first time biometric is what is considered as a proof that this person had come to the shop, and because this person had come to the shop, he or she was given the entitled amount of food grains. Okay, so what is happening in certain, or some of the respondents, what they said is, in fact I'll come to that. See, this is what, for example, happens. So different places, collection of grains happens on the same day, happens on the next day, or collection of grains never happen. So we still have a group of people who go through the entire biometric authentication process, but because the biometric authentication and issuing of grains is now delinked, it's in two different physical spaces. Even when they are in the same physical space, because the biometric authentication is fraught with uncertainty, it takes a lot more time than what the designers have built into their design, yeah, because of which the people, they are asked to come, either wait for longer time or come the next day, or when they come the next day and the shop is closed, and the day after next, then in certain cases there is no issue of food grains, yeah. So, and the dealer can get away with that because the biometric has already been captured, and that biometric capture is a proxy for the person, or is a reflection of the person coming to the shop, and the person coming to the shop is a proxy for, or is taken as a proof of the person having received the entitled food grains, right? And then entries on the ration card. So after you are issued, yeah, it should be acknowledged, or you should be given a receipt. So you have a ration card, and there are all sorts of ways in which entries are made or not made, yeah. So briefly, if we look at this fieldwork and these about 150 people that we spoke with, there's no evidence of the respondents, both ration card holders and the fair price shop owners being better off after the Aadhaar PDS link. Right? So we did not find any evidence that they were, any of them, either the FPS shop, the shop owners, they said it's taking a lot more of our time. The ration card holder said that we continue to get less as we were getting earlier. We have to struggle more with our ration cards. We have to struggle, we have to probably make multiple trips to get our ration. Yeah, so a lot of effort required on part of the respondents to get their ration cards linked to the Aadhaar. For many card holders, the authentication process remains uncertain and unclear, leading to anxiety. Yeah, so this is also something. So when you are old, probably are much more anxious if this does not happen, and people prepare to get a biometric capture, to succeed in the biometric capture a day or two in advance. So they will not do certain things which will make their fingers, or which they feel will make the biometric not coming, the probability of that higher and all. Okay? So there's a lot of anxiety people have, multiple trips to the shops, and in a few cases denial of ration. And I think tomorrow's talk, Sakina will talk of what can happen when ration gets denied. The shop owners exercise discretion. They override Aadhaar based authentication. Yeah. So there is a provision here. So there is a provision that if that authentication does not happen, you can still override it, but it requires a lot more effort on part of the ration shop owners. So they do it depending on the social relationship. Yeah. And in certain cases, the 1.5 kg less quantity that is given is also used for diverting to those whose biometrics don't match. Right? So there's a old lady, the ration shop owner knows that she lives here, she is in need of food, she is in need of these grains, she is a BPL person, but her biometrics don't match. In which case, the 1.5 kg that the shop owner holds from every other person goes towards taking care of this person. So what we see is ration card holders and the shop owners, they're exercising their agency, they're relying on their local social relationships to navigate through these changes which are considered unfriendly. Okay, so that's about the case. Anything, any clarifications, anything that is bothering you at this point? Yeah. So they did not say that we are very so could possibly be. See, they did not have to go back to update. Yeah, so that was not required on a daily basis. Right. So that the minister, when he had responded in the Rajya Sabha, right, so he only talked of FPS automation. If you remember, he did not talk of the entire supply chain, and it's still not done. So when the Supreme Court said we should use IT in PDS, the Supreme Court meant the entire chain. Right now, the technology that has been introduced, or this FPS automation, is only at the level of the FPS. There are some states which have ensured that it is linked to their wholesales and to the FCI, but it's still not done. So that part is still not done. So if it is perfectly functioning, are you able to find out where the delays are? Has the secretary sat on the order for 10 more days than what he was supposed to? So this largely at the FP. So it's the misbehavior of ration card holders and the FPS owners that is being controlled through this design of technology, right? It's not the misbehavior of the godown managers, of the secretaries or the ministers that is being controlled through this design of technology, right? And there's no reason to believe that misbehaviors or what is considered unethical can happen only at the or only by those who are poor. I don't think there's anything to prove. Yeah, ethical behavior with income or with wealth. Yeah. Okay, so we'll just keep that in mind. We'll just take, we have 15 minutes. So there was a question that all of you know Professor Stephen Hawking. Yeah. So there was a question that was asked to him when he was, I think 2015. Yeah. So this was largely in the context of automation of jobs. And the question was around this. Have you thought about the possibility of technological unemployment, where we develop automated processes that ultimately cause large unemployment by performing jobs faster and or cheaper than people can perform them, right? In particular, do you foresee a world where people work less because so much work is automated? Do you think people will always either find work or manufacture more work to be done? So it's largely around automation, whether it's good, not good, will it lead to more employment, less employment. I think it was largely looking at these kinds of examples, right? Something around FASTag and whether this person needs a job or these people need to move faster. So those kinds of questions is what was being asked. But I think it's interesting what he responded. So what he said is, if machines produce everything we need, the outcome will depend on how things are distributed, right? Everyone can enjoy a life of luxurious leisure if the machine produced wealth is shared, or most people can end up miserably poor if the machine owners successfully lobby against wealth redistribution, right? So if the 50,000 crores that has been saved by Government of India goes into making lives of the ration card holders better or the FPS owners better, maybe all of us, people in Delhi, people in Bangalore, and in these households can be better off, right? But he said the trend seems to be towards the second option, with technology driving ever increasing inequality, right? So it requires distribution. So you need to look at what do we gain out of automation, right? And at what cost is that gain coming to, and whether that cost gain offset is being done through a proper way of redistributing the gain that has come, right? So looking at whether, for example, the 50,000 crores that were saved, has it gone to make the trips of the ration card holders to these shops less, so at least they spend 4 hours lesser and therefore can earn 100 rupees more, right? Or it is going to someone else who is already in a position, yeah, where or is it going to make someone else's life much easier? So that's where the question of politics starts kicking in, right? So who gains, at whose cost, and what happens to what is gained? Yeah. So first is who bears the burden of the, or who incurs the cost, who gets the benefits, right? And if the costs are incurred, if the benefits are not accrued to people who bear the cost of this change, then is it distributed, right? So in this case, there is some gain, at least there is some 50,000, x thousand crores gained. The cost to a certain extent is people spending more time to get their ration, right? Now the cost that people have borne to in terms of their time, yeah, there's nothing that is being made up for the cost that people have gained in the way this particular technology is designed, right? So the cost is being incurred by some, the benefits are being taken by others, and there is no way in which the benefit can get passed on to those who have borne the cost, right? So that is what may not entirely fit in the notion of fairness and justice, right? And therefore, this is what we are. We are 102nd in out of 117 countries in terms of hunger index, right? So we have saved 50,000 crores, we probably have saved 1 lakh crores, but we are still hungry, right? And that despite having a Food Security Act, which is supposed to guide this particular technology design. The technology design is not supposed to be guided through the FRBM Act, right? It's not supposed. So FRBM Act, the Fiscal Responsibility and Budgetary Management Act, through which our fiscal deficit is to be controlled, should not be the design or should not be the guiding principle for introducing information technology in a public distribution scheme. The Right to Food Security Act should be, right? So this is a question of ethics. Should FRBM be given precedence, or should the Right to Food Security be given precedence in designing a technology solution of this type, right? And in this understanding, we have to bring in politics. Who gains at whose cost? Yeah, are the centralizing forces gaining at the cost of local level institutions? And if that is so, and if that is leading to these kinds of outcomes, should we be concerned or should we be happy with these kinds of savings, right? Okay, so that gets us to the last segment, looking at development with dignity. And I think Vidisha did briefly talk about dignity. This I'm taking from Amit Bhadri. He is an economist, development economist. This requires recognizing the right of every person to participate in the development process, right? So if you're looking at development, and if you look at food security as a development concern or within the realm of development, and if we are concerned with dignity in the way we go about our development endeavors, then we need to recognize the right of every person to participate in this process, right? The right to be valued and respected and to be treated ethically, whatever we discussed in the morning, right? With fair and just processes of participation leading to equitable distribution of resources and development outcomes. And I'm not saying equal distribution of resources and development outcomes, equitable distribution. So the benefits that should come to me should be consistent with the costs I am expected to bear. So, and I think that's what the earlier presentation also Vidisha was talking about, second quadrant, right? So human beings have the agency to produce technology. Yeah? Without, so every human being has this agency to contribute in technology production, right? Not all types of technology, right? So when you make a big dam, you don't expect people who can only work with an axe, yeah, to go and build big dams. Yeah, yeah. You would not expect someone who does not know how to say, who has not gone through education in say advanced mathematics, to design algorithms for say encoding data, right? So not all forms of technology, yeah. So but that does not mean that technology can only be that. Only big dams are technology, or only centralized digital identity projects are technology. Yeah, technologies can be of multiple types and multiple forms, right? And technologies can be simple. They need not be complicated and complex as a big dam or a metro rail project, right? Or a centralized biometric identity system, right? If you only want to establish identities at a local level, a local fair price shop which caters to 500 families, you don't need a centralized, sophisticated, deduplicating algorithm to tell me whether this person lives here or not, or has lived here for the last 50 years or not. You can still have a technology which allows you to ensure that or keep track of how much people have consumed or taken from that shop. But it requires an acknowledgement that technologies can be produced locally, right? That people, irrespective of their income levels or their education levels or their social status, can contribute to producing technology, can contribute in the process of development, right? So that is what the social shaping or the second quadrant is about, right? So just to summarize, so what I am trying to argue is that development with dignity is important when we are concerned with questions of ethics, right? So dignity becomes important, and dignity is not giving doles to people. Yeah, I would not want someone to be charitable to me, or I would not want to survive on charity without being able to contribute in production. Why should I expect someone else to be happy with my charity, right? And therefore dignity would require providing an opportunity to contribute meaningfully as producers and not only as consumers. And use of technology for development outcomes, such as the food security program we just saw, should provide a greater representation and more voice. And that's why I call this selective inclusion or positive discrimination. Yeah, to affected social groups. So we need to provide, or we need to discriminate against, or we need to ensure that our design teams are or consist more or have greater voice of people who are affected or who bear the costs, and more than those who don't directly bear the cost. In this case, the ration card holders and the fair price shop owners, right? And all these different people, which in the current design has not happened at all. The current design of the entire Aadhaar PDS linkage has happened in Bangalore and Delhi and nowhere else. And Bangalore, Delhi also in some select offices without an understanding of what is going on in the ground. And if we were to look at selective inclusion, positive discrimination, I don't think a centralized, complicated looking technology is going to help, because that will not get people off, because that's very exclusive. It says only those who have these qualifications can come into the design, right? It will exclude, it will not say that people who have been consuming subsidized ration for the last 15 years should have a say more than the secretary or the minister of food and civil supplies, right? And therefore we need to bring in discrimination. We need to actively ask for discrimination if we want the outcomes of these technology to be equitable, right? So this is an example. Any of you have heard of Pani Foundation? Have you heard of Pani Foundation? So what do they do? In fact, oh sorry, this is a slightly older thing. It's 2016. 2019, about 5,000 villages that they work. Okay? So what they are doing is, they are doing this. Yeah. So and I use this because people in the villages, they are producing this technology, right? There is not Sardar Sarovar Dam where they will have no say. Yeah, when you're constructing a Sardar Sarovar Dam, or when you're constructing a Tehri Dam, you need a different kind of, say, so your production system will exclude them. But what you are doing through a Sardar Sarovar Dam is irrigation. What they are also doing is irrigation, right? And it is being, so they are not consuming the water that comes from that dam canal. They are producing it, and when they have a greater say in producing the technology would be, the one is it's dignified. The technology production process is dignified for them. They don't have to depend, yeah, they don't have to depend on some external charity provider or the state as a child, whatever, in that sense, or any other CSR entity who will come and say that, oh, we'll give you a RO plant. They are producing their own technology, and this technology, in terms of water conservation and in terms of serving irrigation needs, can be compared to a Sardar Sarovar, right? So you should, I actually used to, in my last presentation, I had used the charkha. And someone came and said, are you serious? Is charkha still relevant for us as a technology? I thought, okay, so I'll use something that's more current. Yeah. But yeah, so that's what I thought I'll talk on. I hope I did not talk a lot of ethics, but there are certain issues which you find could resonate with the overall workshop.